Hello and welcome back to another video in the complete web dev series. In this series, what I'm going to do is take you from a complete beginner and teach you everything you know to get a job in this industry. That's my goal. And so in this chapter, we are doing a pretty advanced chapter on building a content management system using object-oriented programming. And I think this is a little bit of a stretch, but I think this is what we need to do, okay? What we're going to do in this video is do some rapid fire classes that we need. Let me switch over to my screen real quick. Please comment, like, subscribe if you are enjoying this series. Let me know if you've had any big aha moments. If you're still kind of confused about object-oriented programming, I still wouldn't be concerned. Just keep following along. We are going to go line by line as we build this out. Now, I'm going to do a git branch here to see what all I have, and we are on video 18. So go ahead and do git. Well, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to do in a git checkout-b video 18, just so that you guys can have access to each video, the source code as we left it off. And then I'm going to do a git push dash set upstream, and this will be origin v18. All right, we are ready to roll now, and what we're going to do is in our model here, we have this file is red because we have an error. And the reason that we have an error here is because we try to use this request, and this class doesn't, we haven't built this yet. So we're going to do a couple things. We're going to build that request class. We're going to update. You guys can go ahead and close all the files at this point except for the model.php. Well, we're going to build that. We're going to build a class to deal with our cookies. We're going to build a class to do with our sessions, and we're going to finish off our controller class all in this one video, and it actually won't be that bad of a video. So let's go now and get going. Let's create our request. So in our core here, create a new file, and we're going to call this request.php. That's uppercase there. And once we've done this, let's just open some PHP tags, and we'll go down and namespace this, and it's going to be namespace with core. The next thing that we're going to do here is we want to pull in, let's see. Well, we don't need to pull anything in, I don't think, right now. So just do class, we'll define it as request. And then what we're going to do here is create a couple different things for us to do. The most important thing we're going to do is we're going to create a public static function, and this will be called sanitize. And this sanitize function is basically going to sanitize input that the users input, so that we can run it through HTML entities and things like that. And so what we're going to do here is do it all in a single line, a return, and we're going to use PHP's built-in HTML entities. And inside of there, the first thing that you pass in is going to be our dirty value, but we also want to trim that. So we can actually do that in line here by just wrapping that in the trim function, and that will trim the white space off the beginning and the end of that. The next thing we need to define is how this entity is going to be performed. So we pass it in with these flags, and it's int underscore quotes is what we're going to use here. And then we're going to tell it the basically the encoding type here. And what we're going to do here is we are going to pass in UTF-8. So it's going to force UTF encoding, and I'll save that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to build out a way for us to get information from our request and make sure it's sanitized. So let's go ahead and create a public function, and we're going to call this get. Okay, and this is going to take an input, but by default we're going to set that to false, so you don't have to pass an input in here. And then what we're going to do is we are going to let's do, if there's not an input defined, we're going to return everything. So what we're going to do here is set data equal to an empty array, and then we are going to do a for each, and we're going to loop over our super global that PHP gives us called $_request. Now that will get all of the post and get values and put them into that one request. So we can do that as the field and then value here. Okay, and then so what we can do is inside that loop, we're just gonna set data of field, and we're gonna actually equal that to the self sanitize value. So we'll sanitize that value, and that's going to get put into this data thing. Then what we can do here is we can actually just return data right here. And so if there's not input passed into this, it's just going to get everything in the request and sanitize it, build out a new array, and then return that. So we can use that in our controllers and other places, mostly though in our controllers. Else what we want to do here is we're going to do a return. We'll do this all in one long thing here, and what we can do is say, hey, if array key exists, and we use the needle in the haystack, so we're going to use input. If that exists in our request super global, which is an associative array, if that exists, then we just want to self sanitize and return $_request, and then pass in our input as the key there. Else we're just going to return false. So if we try to get something that doesn't exist, we want it to be false. Okay, so then we have this, and it's going to sanitize just that one element. So if we want to get, for instance, someone's password from the form, we can use this get, but pass in the key of password, and it's going to get it here. Else we can just run it with nothing, and it'll get the entire request and sanitize each element in that array. The other thing that we can do here, in case you want to use this for building APIs or something like that, this method, let's create a public function get request method, and this is going to be pretty cool. It's just going to return, we'll use the string to upper built-in PHP thing to make sure it's all in uppercase, but then we can use the server, which is another super global, and we can just do request _ method. Okay, so this will get the request method, and then we can build several helper methods that we can use around that. So we could say public function is post, and we can return if this get request method is equal to post. Okay, so we can do that for as many things as we want. So we want to do that for a lot of the verbs that we might want to use. So we can use put, return this get request method is equal to put. Okay, so you can see how this kind of works. I'm just going to do a couple of these. We can do is get return this request method is equal to uppercase get, and we'll just do one more or maybe two more. Public function is delete, return this get request method, and this is just returning those verbs. We're not going to use most of this in this lesson, but I wanted to be able to get you guys going on this so that if you wanted to use this request file inside of an API, you'd have it. The last one we're going to do here is do a public function is patch. If you guys want to use any of the other ones, you can add them yourselves, but this get request method is equal to patch, and there we go. So this will return all of that using the server's request method. That's just some helpers, not completely necessary. But let's go back now and solve this error. So we can go up to the top here, and now we will create a group here, around DB, and we'll also just bring in the request like that. That should solve our issue here. Let's see. Is it complaining about another one? DB get instance. Why is it complaining about that? Core. I don't know. I'm not too concerned about that. There's not an actual error here. So I think we're good there. If there is an error, we'll figure it out later. Okay, so that is the model and the request. Let's go ahead now and let's finish up our controller class. And in the controller class, we already have a parameter for request. So what we're going to do now is on the constructor here, right down here where we set the view, we're just going to say this, and we'll say this request is equal to new request. So that will create a new request object, but we need to include that here so that we can use it just like that. And it's from the core. So now it instantiates a new request object from our request class, and it sets it to our public thing. So now in our controllers, we have access to this request. So we can do stuff like this, where we say this request, and then we can use our get function to get sanitized posted data from our forms. So that's what that will be like. Obviously that's not scoped correctly here, so let's get rid of that. I was just showing you an example how we would use that. Okay, so now we have the only other thing we want to do here is I don't want people trying to do stuff in the constructors on the child classes. So let's just add a way for them to hook into that and do a public function on construct. And this will be a lifecycle hook that they can use, and we're going to put it right here at the end. So this will actually call this on construct in case in our child classes from this controller we want to do something after this is set up, we can do that. So that we will be doing that, by the way. So there we go. There's the controller. The controller is done. The request is done. Now let's go ahead and create a couple really simple classes that we can use for our cookies and for our sessions. So let's start with cookie first. We'll create a core cookie.php. Open some PHP tags, and the first thing we must do here is give this a namespace, which will be core. And then we'll just define the class of cookie like this with our opening and closing curly brackets. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do some getters and setters here. So we'll do a get public static function, and this will be get, and it's going to take a name of the cookie, and what it's going to do is it's going to return self exists, which we haven't created yet. So we'll pass name into that. If that returns true, then we're just going to return the $_cookie superglobal, and we can actually pass in the name like that. Else, if it doesn't exist, then we're just going to return false there. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this exist method now so that stops complaining at us. So we'll do a public static function exists, and that's also going to take a name, and we are just going to return is set $_cookie name, just like that. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we want to be able to set cookies and delete cookies. So right here above this one, let's do a public static function set. And this is going to take three parameters. It's going to take a name, it's going to take a value, and it's going to take an expiry. The expiry is going to be how long the cookie is going to live. And so then we'll do a if set cookie. The set cookie is going to take the name, the value, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do time. That's a built-in PHP function, and we're going to concatenate on the expiry. The next thing that we're going to do is give it one more parameter here for the set cookie. Oops, I jumped out of that. I need to be inside there. We'll give it one more parameter here, and that's going to be our path. And the path is just going to be the root. So it's just going to be a / there. So if that is set, we're just going to return true. Else we're going to return false, just like that. So that sets the cookie. This gets the cookie. This checks if it exists. The last thing we want to be able to do is delete the cookie, which they don't really have a way to delete a cookie. So what we're going to do is actually we're actually going to use the set cookie to update it. So we're going to do a return self set, and then we just need to pass the name in. We'll give it an empty value, and then for the expiry, we're going to do -1. So what that will do is it'll take the time, which is the current time in milliseconds, and set it to a second before this, which will be in the past, which means this will effectively delete the cookie. Okay, this delete function. So that's all we're going to have to do. That's actually it for our cookie class, and now we can deal with cookies in an easy way. We have get, set, delete, and exists. We're going to do the same thing with our sessions for dealing with sessions. So go to the core here, right click there and add a new file. And we're going to do session.php. And inside here, we're going to open our PHP tags, go down to the next line, and we must go ahead and set our namespace, which is core. The next thing that we want to be able to do is let's go ahead and set up our class. And we're going to name that session here. And so we're going to do a lot of the same stuff. So let's do our public static function exists. So we'll make it real similar to the other one, and it gets a name. And this time we're just going to return is set dollar, and sessions are in $_session. That's a super global. And we're going to pass name in there just like that. So let me give this some breathing room here. The next thing we want to do is set and get these things. So we'll do a public static function set, and this is a lot easier than the cookie, but this will take a name and a value. And what we're going to do here is do $_session, and we'll pass in the name, and we're just going to set that equal to the value. So that's all we have to do to set a session there. The next thing we want to do is be able to get these things. So what we're going to do here is we are going to do a static function get, and this will take a name parameter, and we are going to check self. Well, you know what? We could do self exists. So self exists name, and then we're also going to make sure that it's not empty, and not empty $_session, and we'll pass it down a name there. So if it exists and it's not empty, then we're going to return $_session name like that. Else what we're going to do is we're going to return false, just like that. And I got to spell return correctly. All right, so that's our exist, set, and get. So let's do our delete now. So we'll do public static function delete, and that will take a name. And this is super easy. All we have to do here is just unset $_session name. Okay, and that will delete the session. So I think for now that's all we're going to do on the session class, but we will be doing a little bit more work on this later to do a little bit more advanced stuff, just to give us a little bit more security and things like that. But for now, we have our basic methods set up for our sessions, our cookies. We've created our request class here. We've finished out our controller, and now our model shouldn't have any errors in it, unless I've just made some dumb typos, and we'll check that later. All right, so I hope you guys are enjoying this. Please comment, like, subscribe. Listen, I know I want to explain these line by line, but we're just not there yet. We're going to explain them the first time we use each method. We're going to go through and explain what they do and how they work. But we're just writing them for now because we just had to get a lot of this done to start building out our application. All right, guys. Well, I will see you in the next video. But first, let me just go ahead and push this up to GitHub. Do a git status, git add to stage all of that. And if I do another git status, you can see that this is ready to be committed. So we'll do git commit -m, and we'll call this request session and cookie. Hit enter, do a git push, and there we go. The next thing I'm going to do is check out my main branch here. And I'm going to do a git merge v18 and push that up. All right, guys. Well, I hope you're enjoying this. I will talk to you in the next video. Peace out.